Good afternoon, it's 1 o'clock. I'm Johnny Robb, and here's the news. At Global Dressage today, now called the, Annex. The field jumping annex is deeply underwater. There's 12 liver pools, and no TV voice. Okay, here you are.
Okay, hi Johnny, how are you?
Hey, I'm great.
I'm Shereen Fuqua.
I know.
And I am doing my GumBits chatting program.
Do we get to eat GumBits while we do it?
Yes.
We do.
It is Easter.
Oh, the
it
Easter
is
GumBits.
Easter, so I have for
Easter
you.
GumBits. Oh.
No, they're not Easter GumBits.
Oh, I thought they were Easter GumBits. They're going to be Easter GumBits.
And anyways, this is Johnny Robb, and I've known you for
decades.
A very long time, and you always tell a funny story about how you met me.
I do. You were pregnant, and you guys were talking about names, and your husband liked my name, Johnny. And so you guys had already set on that.
We were at
Gladstone.
We were at Gladstone walking up the
stairway
staircase
into the tundra, right? And so I said, well, maybe you could put Johnny and Cat together, and it would be Johnny Cat, like the cat litter.
Really?
And he was threatening to do that, and you were popping him over the head with something, saying, that's not going to be happening. Yes.
And that was, I was pregnant at the time, so that was 2007.
Yeah.
And then fast forward, we reconnected in 2014, and I didn't really know that you have a big PR company.
I don't know how big it is, but it's a very effective one.
And it's primarily with the horses.
Completely with the horses at this time. My background is in advertising and television production. And so I was with a firm, and they were closing, and they gave me a great opportunity to leave, and I went and worked and helped Mason Phelps one season for 3 months with dressage. And he did a great job, but he didn't know anything about marketing. He had this firm, and he didn't even know who David Ogilvy was. He didn't know what Marketing 101 was. He didn't know what advertising was.
I don't know who David Ogilvy is.
He is the god of advertising.
Okay.
Look him up. He's fabulous. And so I kind of was like, wow. And he said, oh, you don't need all that. You just need to know horse people. And I said, well, I'm kind of a marketing strategist. I think I want to go that route. So I was with some friends one night, drinking a bit, and they said, oh, you should open your own PR firm. And I was like, I want to own a business and with my horses and everything. So that kind of, over the second bottle of wine, turned into, we needed to name it JRPR. And so we did. And that's how I got started. And it was the next day I had someone call me and say, gee, I'd like to work with you. And that went from one to one to one. And I have, I think, one account that I was working with back then that I still have, which is VitaFlex. So it's kind of fun.
That is really cool.
It's very cool.
And I think the neatest thing is, I know you're a marketing guru, but I want to talk about your horses.
Okay.
And how you started in the horses. You were young, like
I was.
everyone, 6 years old probably.
Earlier. My dad's side of the family, his brother had Oceanic Farm, thoroughbred racehorses, and I was always obsessed from the tiniest time. And my grandfather had 2 horses out in his barn, and they were not racehorses. They were Daisy and, gosh, I've forgotten. And I, as a baby, I would be like, horsies. So I went to the horses automatically, and from both sides of my family, my mom and my dad, I was kind of influenced. But then my mother rode in college mostly because she liked the habit. You know, she liked
and we're in Florida?
No, that was originally in New Jersey, and then when I was 6, we moved to Rhode Island. And part of that move was that I would go to the Roger Williams Park with my dad every Saturday. He'd go to the bakery, and he would take me, and they would put you on these ponies in a ring that was a spiral. And when you got to the middle, they would whack the pony. You were tied onto the thing, and it ran around as fast as it could to get out of the ring. And it went around the spiral, and you'd be like, and I loved it, you know. So from there, I went to riding lessons. I rode 100 jumpers. I started out in Warwick at a really great stable. And
with the ponies? You jumped with the ponies?
I did, and then I jumped with the horses. And the Monk family was my first group, and then I worked with Ann Holt and kind of came along. In fact, I met Mason in Rhode Island, who was doing the jumping group. And so there was always a connection there, great guy. And so I kind of was like, okay, I'm going to do this more and more and more. And when I was 14, my parents realized we need a farm. And so we were riding horses at the farm, at the stables and different places. And so they bought a farm in Connecticut, and things didn't work out. And so with the closing, so they said, well, we'll buy you a horse. And they bought me a horse. And the rest is pretty much history. I showed extensively. I did the hunters, and then I got into some breed shows and went all through that. Rode Saddle Seat. I won my first national championship when I was 1977, so I was 17. And pretty much had the bug. And right up until college, and then at college I decided, I don't want to go to horse college. So I went to the University of Rhode Island. There's studying journalism and advertising. But I still rode through that. And when I got out, I went for my first journalism job. And it was if it bleeds, it leads. And it was a baby in a dumpster. And the journalists were so excited, and I was so proud. And I thought, wow, I can't do this. So I called my mom and said, I can't do it. This is not for me. It's too much tragedy. And I want to be positive. Yeah. So I...
okay, now I'm getting the bleed.
Yeah, it bleeds, it leads. It was a really bad phase in journalism. It wasn't really going away. A little bit. And so I applied for a job with Burt Reynolds here in Florida. I graduated college. They were involved with Arabian horses, which I didn't know.
Burt Reynolds, I don't know what that is.
He is an old movie star.
Well, I know who he is.
He had
I
a
didn't
big
know
ranch
the way
in Florida.
you said Burt Reynolds. I'm thinking movie star, but then you it sounded very corporate. He had his own horses.
He had a huge ranch. In fact, when I got there,
I had no idea.
Yeah, he did. He had a lot of those stars had Arabians, because they had this kind of, it was like a very fancy Ponzi scheme. And in 1984, they changed the tax laws, and there would be no, we used to call them the $1 million uteruses on these mares. So I got there, and there were 52 horses to sell. And it was just crazy.
I love the Arabs. I learned how to ride on an Arab.
Well,
I didn't start riding until my mid-30s. And, well, I started at Chastain Park in Atlanta, and then someone closed that down, and I ended up at some barn on an Arab in dressage, if you can imagine that.
I can imagine that, because later I would do the same thing. Because when I stayed with Burt for about a year, we sold 50-some horses. Great time, got to go in helicopters and do all sorts of cool things. Did he have
all his movie pictures?
He had all his movie pictures. I have many pictures of those pictures. I lived on the ranch.
Oh, please share some
And
photos.
he brought, at the time he was getting ready to marry Loni Anderson, so he brought Loni Anderson and Dom DeLuise and Ricardo Montalban, who, as a young person, I didn't realize what a sexy man he was. But I started to when I met him in person. And Dom DeLuise would say, hey, show him what I taught you. He knew nothing about horses. And Loni came out. So it was, if you were starstruck, it would have been, I was horse-struck, so I wasn't starstruck. Yeah. But it was a great opportunity. And later, when I left there, they had WRK radio on the property. And I met with the radio guys, kind of hooked up with them, really liked them. And John Lee, a friend of mine, introduced me to Art Ardries, who owned an ad agency in Delray. And that's how I got in the ad business. And from there, I went from one agency to another over the years and really learned the business inside out. And that's why I know who David Ogilvy is.
You are really incredible. And I'm just going to put a pause on this for a minute because it's kind of loud in here, and I just want to make sure
we can hear us.
We hear this
crazy story.
Really cool. You have so many interesting stories.
I have a few. I think you can
hold that thought.
You're one of them. Last one too. Just kidding.
Okay. Okay, we relocated because I felt like there was some talking going on in the background, and this Burt Reynolds story just totally intrigues me. And also, I just want to say, you're so busy, you're moving around all the time from show to show. People are always keeping you from me being able to grab you. And because it rained,
it worked.
I was able to grab you, and we are actually here for Spring 1. No, Spring 2, you're right. Is it ESP?
Equestrian Sport Production Spring 2 in Wellington, Florida.
And this is the Derby. Is this meter 50?
135.
A meter 35. And you're here to do awards for actually one of your clients.
Omega Alpha, yes.
And so that's why we're here. It has been raining, and they called the show off for a minute. And now everyone is allowed to rewalk the course because it is
kind of
almost underwater. And Kat was supposed to do the high juniors in here tomorrow, so now I'm glad that we're not.
No, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Liverpools now.
So, anyways, I want to go back to your story. Okay, so you have, oh my gosh, you have an incredible story.
It's fun. It's been a fun life. It has.
It was your uncle that introduced you
and
to
my grandfather,
horses, your grandfather,
and my dad,
and your dad,
and a little my mom. So they were all
you went to college, you studied advertising, you came out, you didn't really like the doom and gloom
of journalism.
Media. And then somehow you took a job with Burt Reynolds, and I was like, Burt Reynolds? And he raised Arabs and bred Arabs.
And it was funny because I thought when I went there that he had Appaloosas. So I was really surprised when I got there, and there were all these Arabians, and they were small. I couldn't tell a yearling from a weanling. And there were a lot of them. He also had 55 acres of exotic animals, which I was involved with.
And where was this?
This is in Jupiter Farms.
Okay.
Still
in Florida. Yep. Jupiter, Florida. Okay.
Of course, back then, like 95 did not go to Jupiter. Jupiter, I moved to the jungle. And I loved it. It was a great experience. And as I said, it catapulted me into the radio station and the ad business. And I'm so grateful for that. And I have never left Florida, and hopefully won't ever have to.
And when he interviewed you, did he interview you over the phone? Or?
Actually, Logan Fleming, who was his manager,
did they even have cell phones back then?
I got my first cell phone while I was at Burt Reynolds, my first car phone. It was this big, giant thing. And then I had the brick, you know. But, yes, they just interviewed me on the plain old-fashioned phone that you dialed. It was not a rotary dial. I'm not that old.
And was he involved in the day-to-day operations?
No, he was still very active. He did ride, and he was a good rider, and he was very active, and he loved his horses. He was really attached to a couple of those horses were his besties. When he was pursuing Loni, he built a chapel on the farm to get married in, which he did.
Oh.
And he had a horse named Miss A that was named for Loni, and he was really interested. Interaction with him was somewhat limited. He was really in LA a lot. He also had a house on Jupiter Island, but it was still cool because we, worked for Burt Reynolds and we had a fun time,
That's really cool. And Loni Anderson.
Loni was there.
Was she at the farm a lot, or
kind of
coming and going?
I only saw her there once. We did that big demonstration one night with everybody, and that was fun. And she was a little intimidated by horses at that time, but it was, it's just a unique experience. I was 20-some years old, and, I was like, wow, this is amazing,
That is amazing. And so, fast forward, you now have your company, but I still want to go back because you did, what do you call it? Not saddle?
I rode pretty much every seat there is. I did... I originally, of course, started with hunters. I even fox hunted, and then I did jumpers. And then I rode some Appaloosas and had an Appaloosa, and those in the youth program, which is amazing. You ride hunter, you ride hunt seat equitation, you ride jumper, you ride western, you ride in a bareback class, you ride in gymkhana game classes to go over all high point youth. And I also rode saddle seat. Saddle seat. And I really enjoyed that.
What? Explain to me saddle seat.
That is like when you see like saddlebreds, the ones
yes,
those guys. But that's a breed doing it is less animated. They don't have quite the same weight, but it's the same balance and seat, and it's fun. And again, I was lucky enough. I mean, I got to ride on the beach as a kid in Rhode Island, and having that versatile background would make any riding that I do today more possible. you know, because you have a lot going on.
It sounds like you've done
A lot.
a lot of disciplines, and now you kind of stuck with the dressage, which is how I met you
Right.
at the
Gladstone.
National Championships in Gladstone.
Farm was the sponsor that year, and many others. And yeah, so you guys were the big wigs, and we thought you were like, ooh, but it turned out you were just really lovely, nice people.
Oh, thank
you know, I've watched Kat's career from the time she was first on a horse.
It's my secret. I have, you know, trained her to ride dressage-based riding. So
yeah, and that really
I love
works
that.
for her. And she's doing very well in the dressage now.
Thank you.
Yeah, dressage
And you yourself have ridden Grand Prix.
I have. I've had many really great horses that I cultivated along the way. Mr. Bombastic was the horse that kind of catapulted my career, and I bought him as an open jumper. A friend of mine got him in Latvia, and he really made me look like I was really, really good. And I felt every judge was lucky to sit in the box and watch that horse come down. And then he got injured, and I kept him and retired him until he was 27 when he passed. And I have since bought several horses over the years, and my goal was to not get my silver and not get my bronze, although I did, but I wanted my gold medal, and that required going to the Grand Prix. And I did that for 2 years on a really great Lusitano that I owned, who we called Zillionaire, because I felt like $1,000,000 every time I rode him. A great, great horse. And I got my gold medal, and I got my gold bar in musical, and I got even something this year called the Diamond Achievement Award for getting them all. So it's, you know, it's great. And I have 2 horses now. I have a young Dutch horse who is probably a little more horse than I can handle, but we'll see. I bought him when he was 3. He's now 6.
Did you buy him in Europe? Or
no, I bought him in Canada.
Oh, okay.
You know, and so that was kind of a strange one, but I have family up there, and so he's kind of cool. He is. We'll see how we call him Gilly, because he's like Gilligan from Gilligan's Island. Okay. So he takes the 12-foot gates off when he wants to move to another paddock and jumps the fences, and so we'll see how he turns out.
Maybe he should be a jumper.
No, we tried him. We actually took him.
Oh my!
Speaking of which,
I think.
Speaking of jumpers,
does that mean they're not gonna jump yet? But I would love if the horses would come out here, because I would love for everyone to see it. But I lost contact with you for a couple years, and then we reconnected again in January. You were representing a really, really neat lady. And I want you to talk for a minute who this client is.
That's Laura King, and she's more than a client. Laura King is a hypnotherapist, and she does life coaching and equestrian coaching and neuro-linguistic programming. It's the most amazing thing. Every time I've had a goal in my life that seemed impossible, mostly originally with horses, I would go to Laura and I would say, oh, you know, I keep screwing up the count on my lead changes, and she would talk to me a little bit and say, well, you know, what do you do when you're in a store and something's on sale? And I say, well, I just take 10%, 10%, 10% off, or whatever it is. And she said, and can you walk around and do that? And I said, yeah, I can walk around. She said, so you're pretty good at math, which I never thought I was, and you can move and do other things while you're doing math. So there's no reason in the world that you can't count tempi changes perfectly. And I went to the regional championships a week later and won regional champion at 4th level with all my changes correct. And I revisited her again when I got to the ones in the Grand Prix, and my horse didn't know how to do them, and apparently I didn't know how to do them, and she hypnotized me a couple times, and I went in and got my first 67 at the Grand Prix, and I knew.
Wow, yeah. A 67.
Yeah,
that's
on my
huge.
Little bitty, not too fancy Lusitano. So Laura is such an amazing person, and she's more than just a performance coach. She is a real life coach. I use her now for so many things. I can't tell you.
How did you come across her?
How did I find Laura? I think she was doing a talk somewhere the first time, and I thought, well, this is pretty interesting. And I contacted her, and I did a session, and then she made a tape or a CD at the time for me that I would listen to before every horse show. And it was simple stuff, but you start training your brain and changing your speech pattern.
And just so you're aware, 12:30, looking at the start there, we'll give a few more minutes to just get ready. And at 12:30 to resume this $37,000 Nutrena 150 Classic.
So she works on using the 9 laws of your mind and really change. She's got a great book called The Power to Win. She has an online course called The Power to Win, which is the easiest way. And a lot of the hypnosis I do in my sleep, and it's fabulous. I mean, I can't I've given it to some of my closest friends, and only those, and said, hey, you know, you should probably do this, and they've had the same kind of results I have. It's life-changing.
Well, I think I should contact her and try to do a story on her, but I did get to talk to her for a couple minutes because she came and spoke at the Emerging Athletes program that was in January that Kat was in, and so...
And she gave all of the kids the course for free.
Yes.
So they have to...
We have it. Well, she gave it to us. We have it. We're going to watch it. Yeah, Kat wants to meet her and try on coming up.
Yeah, she's really special. And I'm really blessed to have fabulous, fabulous clients. I mean, I don't take on a lot. We're a small company, but the ones I do, I really believe in what they do. I am at a point in my life and my career that I'm only going to promote what I think is worthy of it.
Right.
And I will never do anything that I think wouldn't be good for the horse and wouldn't be good for the rider. So that's a strict rule of me.
Which is why you love the GumBits.
I love the GumBits. It's so funny because I have GumBits from ages ago. I have one or two of my horses really used them. And
well, you know, it was a real secret when we first came out with it, and we developed it primarily for the high performance from Gladstone, and a lot of the Olympians were using it, and I wasn't really promoting and marketing it. It was just kind of a personal
product. Making batches in your kitchen.
No, I wasn't doing that, but it was actually a candy factory in Atlanta.
That's right.
But
I have that vision of you just...
So just to remind you, 12:30, so just giving you a chance to get ready and organise. 12:30. $37,000 Nutrena 150 Classic will resume. 14 have you gone. I have lined up so far and just see AJ, and we'll accommodate where we can, but just get underway at 12:30.
And people really love it.
I've always thought of it as a product for show horses and stuff, but I have a horse who's a Cremello Lusitano, and he had probably done working equitation. He had a lot of... He's 15. He had some coming 15. He had some nervous energy, and he chomps the bit, and he's just worried. And I gave him the GumBits, and his face was like, and he walked out, and I got on, and he was still going, and it's settled him. It's calmed him so much to have something in there that's safe on his mouth. And he's a real trier anyway. But I mean, that product has legs that we don't even think about. You know, I don't know if he'll ever be in the dressage ring. I've been showing him Grand Prix in a couple years, but that isn't my top plan for him. But the GumBits have changed his life, and you can give him GumBits when you're not riding, like just something to chew on when he gets nervous. The vet was there giving him the shots and stuff, and I just gave him a handful, and it just settles him down. It's like it's amazing, and I know that isn't the goal of the product, but it sure helps.
It's not a magic potion or formula. No. It's just all about the chewing. Right,
yeah, but they get relaxed doing
and the chewing makes them relaxed, and the GumBits is sugar and beeswax, so it's chewing gum for horses, which you helped me redefine several years ago.
But we could never figure out what it was.
Right.
And that's kind of what it is. It's great. And I can't, you know, again, it's one of those products that I've had the joy of working with you on, you know. Anytime I work on something that I think can help horses and help people that are showing, there's a lot of stress with all this, and if you can take some of that out with a simple thing like GumBits, it's great.
Well, thank you. And I'm having a lot of fun with the GumBits Zoom chatting. Originally, I was doing the Zoom cast from my office, but then because I'm on the road and out in these beautiful backgrounds,
see a couple horses
I'm like, well, let's just do this live. So
I love it.
Thank
you so much.
I appreciate it.
The best.
Thank you.
Good. We've wrapped it up pretty well.
So here we are. It stopped raining, and we're back at the jumper ring, which happens to be on the Derby field, and I'm really glad that Johnny Robb had a minute to talk to me, and now back to horses in beautiful Wellington, Florida.